So we have it, and then we'll wait one more minute. People are jumping on. I see Robin on. We got to hear about Robin and Steven's trip. So jealous.
I don't think I'll be talking about that.
Dang it. It looked fantastic. I want to be your child and come with you.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, you're like, no.
It was, you can come with us, but you have
Yeah.
to pay your own way.
Oh, heck yeah. I've never done a cruise. It's something I
Really?
wanted. Yeah, my
Oh
husband's
yeah,
like,
you gotta do that.
yeah,
It's the best way to go.
cool.
Which cruise line did you do?
This one was celebrity.
Oh, okay. Where'd you go to?
We went to Greece and Turkey.
Oh, how beautiful.
It was.
Yeah, if you guys don't follow them, they shared their trip on social media. It was just fabulous.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Goals, goals, goals.
Mhm. Okay, we are going to get going. People are jumping on, but we want to be respectful. So today we're going to go through listing forms. If you are in the coaching program, you've been assigned the Bliss Realty coaching. And I'm pulling it up. You guys can see my screen, correct? Module 14, we go through the listing presentation. And then also module 10 has transaction desk and contracts. So I'm going to jump over here. I have templates built out in transaction desk. It saves my life. It's fabulous. So I know on the buyer side, we went through that. I want to show you the seller side. So I always have, I have just the buyer broker agreement created with the 7-day tour. I have my listing. I have the purchase. I have rentals and landlords. Obviously, you can also create templates if you work with a specific investor. You're popping out their same verbiage. Templates just really save you time. Maybe take about an hour to create, and you go through and fill out all the documents. And I can definitely tell when our agents don't have the templates filled out because there's things missing. So I'm dyslexic, so I live when they created our contracts in software, I just embraced that wholeheartedly because I can have all of my information saved in there. I can have all the boxes checked, verbiage filled out because I am not detail and I tend to flip-flop numbers and everything. So in the listing, and it's great if you have teams, you can upload checklists in here. I've uploaded our compensation disbursement. I have our Bliss mold, the pool safety. So it's just automatically in here. Just because it's in here doesn't mean I need it, right? Obviously, if I'm taking a listing and it doesn't have a pool, I'm not going to have them fill that out, right? But everything is in here so that when people start asking for it, I have it. Under the forms, this is where I'll pull in the different library of documents. You've got to search under the AR MLS, and then some of it is in the AAR, right? You've got your wire fraud, you have your SPUDs, you have, if there's an HOA, market conditions, your data input form, the fair housing, your agency, and then we'll go through the listing contract. So these are all documents. Obviously, if the property has a septic or a well, if it's a mobile home, you're going to have different. Oh, Lori Lyons, is she on there? And it says, I'm kind of a big deal. That's cute. So it depends on the property, but with templates, you always just have your basic forms ready to go because it never fails. So I had 3 sellers in the past week decide, hey, yeah, I want to get photos, I want to get listed coming soon. So I had to blast those all out, right? And if you get distracted, you want to have everything ready to go for you. It just saves you a lot of time. In the exclusive right to sell, so this is what I'm going to go through. Obviously you can't in your template, you're not going to fill out the owner's information, but you can have the brokerage and the agent's name, right? Which is going to be you. Let me clean this out. So sometimes I'll even have in here, you know, must have. This is my template. You want to have the property address, the assessors, the legal description, because sometimes the addresses are messed up, right? I've seen the assessor numbers not aligned with the actual property. So it's important to have all of it so that when you get into escrow, title can verify, hey, that this is the correct property. So the thing that I have found is that the exclusive right, so I am the only agent selling this property, does not align fully with our data input form. Through the lines 14 through 16, are you selling it? Are you doing both? Are you listing it for sale and for rent? If that is the case, then you need additional paperwork to come through, right? And then obviously your sale price. And this is something that the seller has instructed you, maybe based off conversations or your CMAs. Where do they want to start out at? The term agreement starts, this is your listing contract with them. You may need to clarify, this might not be the date that we're coming soon, or the date that you're going live active in the MLS. The data input sheet does have those options, but I do, as we get down, I will be more specific on my dates. But this is definitely an example. I have a listing coming up in Queen Creek and they want photos. So I 100% am going to have them fill out a exclusive right with me before I pay for that. And then when is your expiration date? Some sellers only want to be in contract with you for 3 months. I will do 6. Some properties, if based off the CMA, may need 12 months. And that is a discussion between you and the seller. You can see the modification. This agreement may be modified in writing and only in writing. I do add verbiage to change that because I don't want to have to sit and send out forms constantly. So now it's saying compensation. The owner must initial here. Compensation is not set by the law or a board or association of realtors, right? Or MLS. The compensation is you. What is your business plan? And that's part of your listing presentation, right? Similar to your compensation on the buyer agent side. Your job is to explain what is your value and justify it. If you charge 3% on the listing side, then spell it out. What are they going to get for that 3%? Maybe you're 2.5. Maybe you do 1. Maybe you do a flat fee. So that's where we get into lines 43, 45. Personally do not charge a retainer. We have had agents that do that. Maybe you've shelled out marketing money, and it didn't work out. The retainer needs to be cited up front when you're doing this listing presentation. And sorry, I skipped a lines, but, and then how is that going to be? Are you going to discount that once the property closes? This all has to be discussed with the seller, right? And that could determine whether or not you get the listing. You guys don't have to take listings if that seller also is not willing to pay or wants to start out really high priced and does not listen to you. You don't have to take the listing. You can walk away. The listing compensation, or you can do a flat fee. I have a listing with it's land and I have a flat fee on my side. So again, this is your business. And then what do you decide with the seller? You may lose listings because of what you're doing or charging, and that's your business model. Be okay with it. Or make adjustments. There's some agents that will say in their listing presentation, for this fee, this is what I will do for you. For this fee, this is what I will do for you, right? And this fee, this is what I will do for you. So you can also come up with that. Again, there's no set amount. It's you and your business. So when we get into lines 47, this is called additional listing broker compensation. And between you and the seller, I love the changes in these forms. An unrepresented buyer comes in, which tends to happen. Does the owner want you, the listing broker agent, to represent the unrepresented buyer? You need to explain that in full. What does that mean for the seller and the buyer? And does the seller want you to do that? And I think a lot of them did not understand dual agency. They did not understand unrepresented buyer. And then if they agree to let you represent an unrepresented buyer, what does that fee look like? Because it's going to you. So they may say, I don't want you doing that. You may, and you can see my template, I already say, I don't do that. I will refer that to another Bliss agent. How can I represent you as the seller fully when I know everything about your situation, financial situation, what offers you're willing to take or not, repairs on the property, right? How can I represent a buyer fully? Unrepresented buyer just means that you're walking them through that paperwork, but I still think there's a fine line of ethics. So this does need to be discussed and explained to the seller, and it's the seller to say yes or no. It's not you. Also, the buyer broker line 50. Does the owner want you as the listing agent to communicate any compensation to a prospective buyer agent broker? If they do, what does that look like? Right? I just have this filled out in my template. I actually have, I think I have 6 or 7 listings right now, and about 50 of them, some are offering a buyer agent compensation and some do not want to. And they want to see what offers come into them to negotiate. Super. How would you like me to discuss that or say that? And I have those in my line items as we get down there. Okay. Because again, this is up to the seller. They actually think this is fun, guys. I do in my listing presentation talk to them, depending on our price point and our areas, what kind of offers may come in, right? You could have a buyer that asks for seller concessions and or help with their buyer agent compensation. but I've already set those terms and that precedence with my seller, just so that they're aware. If it's a rental, how much are you paying that agent that brings the tenant? You obviously can look up CMAs on rentals and you can kind of give that seller, hey, what we're seeing right now in the market is maybe $250 compensation, or maybe it's a $300 compensation. If it's a really nice luxury property, sometimes those are 12 months out, depending on the lease. It's a percentage of that yearly. It's similar to a commercial lease, however long that lease is for. And then again, it goes into that unrepresented tenant, because maybe you as the listing agent got a lead off and filled out the application. Does the landlord want you helping with that? What does your compensation look like in these terms? It's very spelled out, very, I love it. It's not messy at all. Any extensions, if there's, it happens to be a purchase after expiration. With the listing, you need to go through and talk to them about what fixtures are conveying with the property, or are they taking? And you have to be very specific in your listings, right? If it's built in, you still need to point it out, because in different states, some people take the ovens or the microwaves. I have a listing coming up that the owner said, hey, I'm gonna leave the curtain rods, but I am taking my curtains. So I'm spelling that out because I want to be very specific so that there's no issues, right? Some barbecues even look like they're built in and they're not. So you definitely want to be clear. Any TV mounts, right? Find out, is the alarm system owned or rented? Sometimes the water softeners also. You've got to ask questions. This also gets into solar. Find out the equipment. The appliances are a big one, and sometimes they ask you, well, would I get a better offer with them? Do your in the CMA, you can pull up those properties and see what appliances are conveying. If it's a rental type area or a first time home buyer, yeah, the appliances will probably help those buyers. And again, the leasing, the solar, is it hooked up? Very big deal if it's a lease versus owned. Is it paid off, paid in full? Who needs to assume those agreements? Do they need to qualify? What do those fees look like? Your job is to ask these questions and to get the answers so that you're not in a lawsuit. What we're finding too is there's not always liens now with the solars, especially if someone pays it off. There's not a lien there, guys. But you still need to clarify, is it owned or leased? As the listing agent and the seller, this is part of your responsibility. Let me find my cursor. If you guys have questions, interject, okay? Talking about, sorry, go ahead.
I do real quick. I'm just a little confused just because I thought per the brokerage, we weren't going to do representation of dual agency, meaning the one agent, that we would do a co-list.
Correct.
If it was you and me, then that was okay.
Yeah. This is not, and this actually does not bring up dual agency, guys. This doesn't say you get to do dual agency. This is if an unrepresented buyer comes in. So if you're wanting to do dual agency, which our policy, we have said we don't want you doing it, you need to talk to me or Lisa.
Okay.
Short sales are one thing. The banks have the final says on everything. Same with the foreclosure. But this doesn't even bring up dual agency. This is like, in the previous listing agreement didn't even talk about this or unrepresented buyer, which I'm very thankful this does. read about the agency, guys, here in section 6. It's so important. Your duties, your obedience, your disclosures, your confidentiality, right? Super important. Conduct. What is your representation as the listing broker? A lot of sellers don't fully understand this or know. What is your authority? Do they want it in the MLS? Explain the positives. So when you take a listing, your upfront fees are going to be marketing, a sign. You need to ask, does the owner want a sign? You don't put a sign up in someone's yard if they don't want it. Do they want a lockbox? This is part of your listing presentation, is to go through and actually explain safety, lockbox, no lockbox. Maybe you're not even using an MLS lockbox, it's a contractor box. What does that mean to them? The keys. I have a listing that's coming soon. She does not want open houses. She does not want a lockbox. So I have explained to her when we do have a showing, what I expect of her, to not be in that property, to not engage in conversation. I do not want to have disclosure issues, right? But I also have it spelled out what she's wanting to protect me and her. Offers. How do they want to receive offers? How do they want to receive backup offers? Do they want to withhold? Do they want verbal offers? I love the cancellation. The listing broker reserves the right to cancel this agreement for any cause. You know, if at some point the seller is really difficult or there's a violation, cancel it, walk away. Just like you don't have to work with that buyer, you do not have to work with the seller. I've been in many situations where the spouses can't agree, maybe there's a divorce, there could be a death, and you're dealing with 4 or 5 children. It's difficult. And this property, they're never going to accept an offer, right? So it's sometimes you have to walk away. I just believe if there's negative energy, you're focused on that one client, that situation, and you're missing out on other opportunities. If they're being so unreasonable on their price and they're not willing to adjust, guys, you just may not ever sell this property. But again, that's your decision. But I like that. I feel like some agents feel like they have to accept and work and take everything, and you don't. It also says the owner obligation, right? When you're setting up the showings, they can be added to the Align. They can be added to showing time, whatever MLS you're in, add them so that they can see the showings. They can accept them. They can not approve them. If there's a tenant, figure that out, figure out the rules, and set that expectation with that owner. Is there children? Is there animals? What do we need to do to allow showings? But what is their obligation? Do they want open houses? This is a question, you guys. What is expected of you? Do they not? Maybe they want one that first weekend. Then step up. Disclosures. They're called the spuds. You do not fill them out. The seller fills them out. If you get them right up front when you're getting these docs, then when you get an offer, they need to be updated by that seller. Maybe they do a repair or there's been damage. At any time up to closing, the spuds must be updated. There's also a disclosure addendum that you can fill out so they can disclose, right? Something about that property that's changed. Read over the disclosure doc, read over the spuds. Even when I have a buyer and they're purchasing a property and the seller says, I don't know anything about this. I'm not giving spuds. Well, on the listing side, that better be disclosed and signed off right away. On the buyer's side, yes, they agree to that there won't be any spuds, but I still have my client fill out blank spuds so that they know what to look for during their inspection timeframe. It should always be in whatever contract. The listing side, you're not going to be able to get spuds. Then put that out there to the agents that there are not going to be spuds, and that better be in the purchase contract. Anyone can get claims history. Clue report, claims history. It's free. The solar addendum, guys, again, if you have questions, reach out. The HOA addendum, you can get as much information as you can about the HOA, but in the end, that seller has to sign off on it. And then the buyer and the buyer agent do their due diligence. Protection for the listing agent. Disputes, we as agents, we always try to settle outside of court, right? Buying side or selling side. And anytime you have questions, just email me, and you have the broker support email. I have additional terms. It's in my template. The seller and listing agent are allowed to make changes to this contract via email or text. And then I've put in here, Mara will not represent unrepresented buyers or work dual agency representing both buyer and or seller in this transaction. I make it very clear to my clients. I say Mara because obviously if I get a buyer lead, I'm going to refer that out to a Bliss agent, right? In that case, that is a dual agency, but it's separate agents under the same brokerage. But it does not, I say very clearly, I'm not representing both buyer and seller. Because those other Bliss agents do not have these conversations that I have with the seller. Mara will refer out any interested buyers to another Bliss Realty agent at no cost to the seller. So I also will put in here, if the seller has instructed me that they do not want to have the box checked on a buyer agent compensation, then I will put verbiage in there to protect myself, that any offers coming in, Mara will not disclose any buyer agent compensation, that it can all be negotiated. They just need to send us their offer, because maybe the seller wants to counter on the price in order to net X amount of money. But again, if I have a couple of listings that are coming soon and then they go live by a certain date, I will also in this section specify that. I will put our coming soon date is October 4th. Our active go live date is on or before November 4th, 2024. And it's spelled out, right? Because that's something the seller and I have discussed. Hey, we're going into a listing contract together, but we're not going to go coming soon in the MLS until this date. Maybe we need to get our marketing squared away, right? And then our go live date is such and such. On my data input form, sometimes I haven't even come up with my marketing verbiage. I will always write on there, see the MLS Plano. See the MLS Plano. I email the MLS Plano to my clients and I document it and save it, even if it's coming soon or the go live active. What do you think? Do I need to make changes? Have I missed something? Right? That all needs to get spelled out, and it's their property. I'm just doing the job. Super important that they can see what's going on. They will immediately go, I don't see it on Zillow. I don't see it on realtor.com. Like, it needs time. Those sites don't update automatically. That's why our MLS is the Bible. I want them to see what we've put out there, the marketing, everything. Sometimes they want me to change verbiage. Great. Send me an email or text specifying that so that I'm protected. Do you guys have questions?
Mara, I have a question. This is Dominic. I was just
Hey.
on that back to that section you were where you had your stuff that was already pre-filled.
Mhm.
Is that something that you always pretty much in all your deals have that pre-filled all the
Yeah.
time, no matter what?
Yep.
Okay. And obviously there's some place to do that in the software.
Yeah.
To go. Okay.
Yeah. When you're filling out the forms, because we're in transaction desk right now under the templates. So we have the templates class and you have the coaching. So it's in there. And
Okay.
you guys have copies of my templates. I have added the verbiage, and I can update this if you guys want me to, on me not disclosing. In fact, I can do that on here. Let's see. Sorry, give me just a minute. I think I had actually sent this over to Grayson at one point. Can you guys see my typing?
Yeah. Yes.
Lisa has not yelled at me about these, so I'm assuming they're okay.
I just got up to get coffee, so maybe I missed something. Just kidding.
She said there's still time.
So depending on my listings, I will add or remove the verbiage, right? Listing agent not to disclose if seller is willing to offer buyer agent compensation. This is up to the buyer and their offer. Pretty basic. We're not attorneys, guys. The goal is not to rewrite contracts, whether you're in a purchase contract or a listing. Anytime I'm in the purchase contract, or right this morning I did a Benzer for a buyer, I'm always referencing line items. Line item, blah, 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 to be. Don't rewrite. Just be very basic. I like full disclosure. A lot of sellers, that's what I love about this new listed contract, is sellers were not aware that their agents were doing dual agency. Or they thought they were going to be saving on commission. Well, it's spelling it out now very clearly. What does it mean and look like for the seller? And Lisa and I've mentioned to you guys multiple times that dual agency is going to be that next lawsuit, and there's going to be sellers not happy. We're just waiting for it to come. And so she's been hearing chatter that dual agency will probably be getting away from. It just opens you up to lawsuits, 100%. So anytime seller or buyer, I create my folders in Outlook and label them either by the address or the buyer name, and then I save my emails. If I have a phone conversation, I will follow up in an email. I have one right now. A woman, she's a widow. We're selling the property and there are attorneys involved. I always follow up with an email to all parties and blind copy myself and say, per the conversation, she always wants me to meet her face to face. She signed her paperwork face to face. And then I follow up. As was discussed in our conversation, this is what I got. I walk away with, right? It's just protecting yourself. And maybe you miss something. We all hear things differently, right? Than what maybe they're trying to tell us. And things also change. Circumstances change. So there's a listing addendum. You have the data input sheet, which that doesn't even align with the MLS. So I always say, see the MLS Plano on a lot of my paperwork. It's just not as messy, right? And you're just covering yourselves. The listings are picking up because the sellers are happy that they're not obligated to pay for 2 agent compensations now. But I always set the precedence of what would those offers look like coming in. And then what are your fees? So your listing presentations should disclose, what are they getting from you? What are your fees, right? Just like we're doing buyer interviews, the sellers are interviewing. What other questions do you guys have? Can you put that in the contract after so many offers, they do not accept, you walk away? Not in a sense. You still have your clause of if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, then you can cancel. Because at some point, some people are emotionally scared to sell. And you're bringing them good offers, and you might even be able to go after them for your time, right? I would always like seek Lisa's advice for that. It depends on each situation. And there's some properties that are getting multiple offers and others that are not. So, and it depends on the market. Always be up to date on your market because it can change within a day, right? Interest rates are going to be dropping. They're saying by next year, they could be at 4%. That means you guys have to start marketing now, going after clients, getting them prepared, go after listings. Because when it picks up, it's going to be busy. And that's why I like the templates too, right? The templates are fantastic because if you're working with multiple buyers or multiple sellers, you can create all their transactions and then just pull your templates in. If you have a TC, you can CC them so that when contracts are signed, the TC gets that info, which I need to get better at. I think that's funny. I say that. I really try with technology, guys. I really do. I'm really a notes taker person. But on technology, I really try to embrace it because of my learning disabilities, right? When we had carbon copied forms, I was a freaking hot mess because I was transposing everything wrong. So embrace technology in this. It may take you a while to build your templates, but you 100% will thank me after. And we can tell Lisa doesn't have to kick back so many things. Don't get me wrong, I still miss initials and signatures. But you know, it'll make your lives easier as market picks up. The holidays, we are busy here. I never take a vacation. Christmas Eve, I'm showing houses or taking listings. People list in January, so they'll start interviewing November, December. Come on, you guys are quiet. Questions. Linda, Come on, Linda. Come on, Dee. Nothing?
Well, that's exciting that that we're gonna be busy in December.
We should all be busy. I
look forward to
tell
it.
agents, and especially the agents that go on vacation, okay, we'll partner up with someone. Or I'm like, heck yeah. Thanksgiving, people are out golfing. People are in Arizona. Guys, the snowbirds are already coming back.
That's true.
If you can't tell by the traffic and Costco, like, come on. So get out there and network and get out there and meet people. You're marketing your open houses. You may be sitting though, I know I'm getting sidetracked, but you could sit in an open house, you're like, no one came, but you don't know who's watching you, right? Never make assumptions and network with out of state agents. They're your best. Take a referral fee all day long. Give that out because you're getting a client for life because you guys are amazing agents. So start Googling, get into the groups, post you're an agent in Arizona. Post, make video marketing content about locations and communities, right? Sellers will watch that. You may get a buyer, but you don't know who's watching to take listings. Maybe they're already in a listing with another agent and they're thinking about making a change. So real estate, as frustrating as it is, it does go day by day. You may think, oh my gosh, I have nothing going on today. And then tomorrow, boom, you could be influxed with some people deciding to sell because life happens. People are getting married, so in the holidays, people have already decided to get divorced. So you better be networking with those attorneys, divorce attorneys. They're just waiting until after the holidays to tell their kids. So they have to list with an agent. And then most of the time you're looking at 1 or 2 buyers out of it. Right? The holidays are not a bad time to work. You want to work. People are in Arizona, they're happy. We have great weather. So get out there and meet people, whether it's through open houses or just networking. And the agents in the other states, you guys can pull up stats to find out where they're coming from. Reach out to those agents for referrals. Look for other independent brokerages, small brokerages, right? Independent refer all day long. What other questions do you guys have? We're like 15 minutes short, but this is a pretty basic, it just coincides with your listing presentation. I have a property I'm getting ready to list and they have a solar lease. They actually never activated it and didn't pay any money on it. And I said, well, I still have to disclose that. So I need that info, right?
Mhm.
Before we go live, I've got to get that info.
Escrow asked for it.
So, it's everything you can find out about that property and some things you're just not going to be aware of. I typically will never have an appraisal done beforehand because the appraisal will come in short. They don't have a property to work off of. And I definitely won't have an inspection done because now I'm obligated to disclose everything that we know about that property and the seller. So the buyer's it's a question if you want to give that inspection over to the buyer or not. The seller can decide whether or not, but you still need to update your spuds. And then the buyer, they typically will just get their own inspection. You'd be surprised what they ask for. It's not what you think usually. The positive with the changes on the compensation sides, we're getting more listings. And as the mortgage interest rates drop, buyers start coming out. So you should always have listings in your back pocket to be successful. I tend to be a buyer's agent, but you should always want to have listings. Open houses, you're going after listings. Even if someone comes in and they're wanting to buy, they probably have a property to sell and they're looking at what did you do to market this house? Seller guides, your marketing, it should be set up as if it's your listing. Have flyers out in the signposts, hang up sign writers. Daryl does that. He'll hang up open house sign writers. So, I could go on, but Lisa, do you have anything to say, contribute?
Nope, you covered it all.
Cool. I definitely want to make sure you guys are reading over what conveys and doesn't convey. You know, we joke about what we learn in real estate school. It's not real estate, but this is something that it is serious. You know, as you're walking through the property with your owner and you're making notes, find out what they've upgraded, what they've done to the property. Find out, you know, the chandelier in the dining room could be a family heirloom. Well, you need to disclose that does not convey. And I will actually write that in here. Pictures that don't convey, the dining room chandelier, and that needs to be in your MLS Plano. Hopefully you guys all know what that MLS Plano is, right?
Yes.
Yeah. This is the MLS Plano. There's a client view and the agent private view. So when you upload your listing paperwork, you need to upload that it's coming soon or active, the agent view. Same thing when you have a purchase contract, you're uploading this, the agent view. And it just documents. Before we used to document the commission, but now it's documenting, right, who the agents are, what's going on, things that convey, don't convey. When you're writing a purchase contract, you want to look at those private remarks and find out, is there something not conveying? Your buyer needs to know. Good luck, Melissa. Good showing. And when you're listing, under your documents, there should be a documents tab. This is where you'll list the HOA, maybe the solar, if there's any issues. I'll list out any upgrades. Sometimes the owner wants you to put receipts for things. I personally will never put my disclosure docs in here. I want my job's to get an offer in, right? So on a listing side, it's you're wearing a different hat. Your verbiage, your photos, they need to pop so that people want to go see that property. And then you're following up for feedback. You're following up for, hey, get me an offer, right? The private remarks are between you and the agent. Maybe there's a showing issue. Maybe there's stuff that doesn't convey. Maybe there's stuff that does convey. I have a property in Peace and the guy wanted to give out the brand new snowblower. Kept changing his mind, so I kept having to update it. But people need to know that, right? And we need copies of it. And I will share this one. I had a potential lawsuit. This was back when I was an agent. I was, I think, a 2-year agent maybe. And the market was just starting to get hot. And my client was a 1031. And I never had a coach. I never knew to pay attention. This is our other thing, is that we're marking as a listing agent. When you get an offer and you guys accept that, you have to change the terms in MLS. Is it pending? Is it UCB? Under contract taking backups? Maybe the buyer has a contingency. Well, those are things you have to put in there, and you change the terms in MLS. So it's not active anymore. My buyer, we went under contract. We had our inspection and the seller was not responding on the Binzer. Well, I never thought to look. In MLS, they kept the property active and were bringing in other offers. And they opened escrow with a different title company for a higher amount. So we automatically went into a lawsuit. It was not my fault, but my paperwork that I turned into the brokerage was super important of documentation. But my client was a 1031, so you have timelines and deadlines. I almost stopped being an agent back then. And that agent, it was a KW agent, got dropped from his brokerage because he whited out. We do not white out anything. In any contracts, there's addendums, right? Anytime we have to clear things up, you do an addendum. If you're calling to ask me, I'm going to say do an addendum. So will Lisa. Don't cross out, don't add initials. Just be very specific in your addendum. We can approve the verbiage if you want before you send it over. The terms have got to be spelled out. So yeah, that agent, his flat fee for the E&O was like a $15,000 deductible. Yeah, KW. And his brokerage dropped him. He had to go hire on with a different office because he whited out to prove that there was no counter offer. So it took all my paperwork, and I learned from that day on to always check MLS. And I think that when we hired Lisa, I was like, this is super important.
Yeah, that's why we make you guys load it, showing it
Yep.
pending to
I
make
know
sure.
you guys get pissed. Yeah.
I know you think it's redundant, but you need to be checking these things. And that's
Yeah.
how we know you're doing your best for your clients and protecting yourselves and protecting the brokerage.
Yep. Especially when that market, and some agents will say, well, I'm going to change it over when I get earnest money. No, that's not how that works. When there's a mutually signed contract, you as the listing agent must change and notify everyone. I typically will keep it UCB until we're past appraisal, because we're past inspections and now I'm waiting on the appraisal. My job is to get, if the seller and I discussed it and they say they want backup offers, that's my job. Right? And especially when the market's kooky. So, we're almost done. Do you guys have any other questions? Anything else you guys can think of?
Mara, this is Dominic. I do have a
Yeah.
question regarding, let's talk about the addendum real quick. And obviously deals change, right? Something
Yep.
goes on. You were 3 months, 6 months into the deal. Let's go to the snowblower. The guy says, yeah, finally, I'm going to give you the snowblower.
Mhm.
Are we going back to that one section where you were typing in new copy? Is that where that would go in that contract? We have to go back there, start it all over again and redo that contract?
So if you don't have that verbiage in there that says that things can be changed via email or text, then you must write a listing addendum and now state the snowblower does not convey or conveys with the right offer, whatever that seller wants.
Okay, so the key is just get that verbiage in regarding can change the offer via whatever, and then
Well,
we can
change
go and
your
make the
listing
change.
terms, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if a buyer makes an offer, that's where you would counter based on what the seller wants to do and the terms. And yes, sometimes you may come to one agreement and then you get into inspections and the agreement may change too. But that's the Benzer or an addendum. So we always want it spelled out. If someone says something verbally, especially in the purchase, get it in writing. Verbal does not stand in court. Most of the time, the email and the text won't either.
Okay, on a housekeeping note, back of the housekeeping note, when we were in that contract before,
Mhm.
you were in
Transaction desk.
transaction desk. How did you get over to where you were real quick in transaction desk to go over to the MLS super fast?
So I have my tabs open.
Oh, okay. All right. No wonder. Okay.
When you're creating and you have a transaction class in Suite Assist, when you're creating a transaction in Transaction Desk, you can type in the MLS number and you can either pull in the old MLS data if it's a listing, or if you're writing a purchase contract, you can pull in that info and it'll pull in those docs too from the listing side.
Okay. All
So
right.
it's very, yeah, I love it. Very easy to use. So yeah.
Hey Mara, this is
Mhm.
Linda.
Hey.
Just not related, but related to listings. I
Yeah.
have a listing and it's been sitting on the market for about 2 weeks, so it's not been too long, but
Not at
the
all.
first
Mhm.
week, there was a lot of interest, and people were seeing it. And then the second week, it's like dead. No one
Yep.
wants to see it. So the seller is getting a little nervous, doesn't know what to do. So I'm like, well, what's the best way to kind of handle the seller, with the situation that we're in the second week?
Guys, I always reference the CMA. I do a weekly CMA. It's in my activities. Let me log back in. Every Monday, and this is part of my listing presentation, I will do CMAs for my sellers. This is a CMA. Tells them square footage, active, that's my competition as a listing agent. Has any of these guys, have they dropped their price over the weekend? I need to know that.
Okay.
Days on market. Now I can get into the UCB, the pending, and the closed means sold. They need to know, and you guys need to explain this.
Okay.
How many days on market? Are you looking at 3 months? I have a listing I'm going to be taking in Queen Creek that they're probably 8 months out. And they know that. I've set that precedence. Based on the price, what does it look like? You have to do that because of the market. If the market were to change, guys, and we're getting the 20 offers again on the first day, you still have to set that precedence with them because they may not be ready to get an offer and go under contract day one. Some even didn't want offers on the day one. They wanted to wait the entire weekend to see what offers and create a bidding war. But your job based on your CMA is to have those conversations with the sellers. They're the adults. Your job is to provide data, and your job is to explain the offers, the market, and what are you going to do to market that property? You're the professional. Seeking guidance from them. How much money do they need to net? What is their mortgage payoff? Some are in short sales right now, depending on the locations. What does that look like? Some need their money fast. Well, then you're not going to play with that price, right? You're going to list down because you can see under closed 6 days, the sold price was $525. Well, then why would I start at $535? Just go right to $525. Maybe do $520. Some agents like to list below so they can get multiple offers in. That's a risk because I don't always believe that. That means you might even get offers even lower, 515, 510, who knows, right? We're in a normal market where things take time to sell. That's a normal. And some buyers want to come back and look 2 or 3 times before they make an offer. That's a normal market. Lisa and I have experienced normal markets where it took 6 to 8 months to get a property to sell. And yeah, you were doing open houses for that seller every weekend, probably. A not normal market is getting properties sold within the first day on the market. That's why it got crazy and the prices got crazy. But as the interest rates start going down, guys, and we get through the election, you better be prepared. Work with your buyers fast because the buyers may be wanting to make decisions fast too. Can you move with them? Get your sellers prepared, right? That's our job. I would never take a listing and say, hey, you're going to get an offer in 6 days. Based off this CMA, if you look at it, your overall in this price point for the square footage, you're looking at over a month before you'll get an offer. And where are you at sold price, sold per square foot? So make sure you're doing your CMAs, make sure you're updating your sellers. On the listing side, we have costs up front for marketing. Your job is to communicate with that seller, the market, right? Any feedback, maybe put the listing on an agent tour, which you need to be present at, and get feedback. Maybe there's a smell in there. Maybe you have ugly photos. I don't know. Or it just is the market. Sometimes it's just waiting for that one buyer. because they'll come.
Okay, thank you, Mara.
Yeah. Any other questions, you guys? I do the CMAs. I look at Monsoon. This is the CMA from the MLS. Of course, go to Zillow. They're always in Zillow. The Zillow's estimate is always lower because they got in a lawsuit. We have access to Top Hat through Chris Self. So there's CMA classes in Suite Assist. But you have to know, as a listing agent, you're always looking at that competition. You should be running CMAs weekly too, because if someone else down the road just reduced their price, does that mean you guys need to reduce your price too? What are the new builds doing in that area? What are their prices? What do you have different? So the new builds are building specs, properties that are raring to go, and they're buying down buyer interest rates. So educating your seller on the market is your job, right? Any other questions? It's 12. You guys got me on here.
Thanks, Mara. Appreciate the information. It's always
Yeah.
informative. Yep.
Yeah, listings are obviously they're key. I don't care how new you are, you need to have listings. Open houses, again, you're going after listings. If if you're hitting doors, those people are looking at that property because they're thinking about selling at some point. So who are they going to list with? Yes, you can help them buy a new property, but you need to help them with their sale. So that's what open houses are about, right? And then what is your setup? Open houses are busy, guys. And again, if no one comes through, it's still your video, your content, what you did beforehand that people are watching. Okay, you guys have any other questions? Let me know. And then we'll upload this to Suite Assist, okay?
You're the best. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.